all of the schools were segregated. And however, my parents were very pro-education.
And I was one of the 16 students who helped integrate Durham High School.
I grew up in Albany in southwest Georgia and attended public schools in Dougherty County starting in 1959 in a completely segregated school system.
Most of the kids there were Black, but the nuns we had were all white.
From its start in 1823, my home county of Gadsden was and still is the only majority Black county in Florida.
And I was born in a small town in Georgia called Sandersville, Georgia. And in Sandersville, they had one school for Blacks. I went to Ballard Hudson Senior High, which was 9 through 12. At the time, that was the only high school Blacks could attend in Macon, Georgia. I graduated from Ballard Hudson Senior High in 1960.
Growing up in Macon, Georgia at that time, all of the schools were segregated. And however, my parents were very pro-education. And they were determined that the children, all 12 of us, would be well educated. So they sent us to a Catholic school. And so my parents did what they could to keep the harmful effects of segregation from us. It was a situation where we were in the experience, but we didn't really understand the experience because they told us that we could be anything that we set our minds to being, that we were as good as anyone else. I was given a scholarship. I was awarded a scholarship from my elementary school to attend high school at this military academy. To my knowledge, it was the only African-American or Black military academy in the United States, a 4-year program. And I realized later that some of my classmates who were from Virginia were attending that military school because the state of Virginia, instead of following the mandate of Brown versus Board of Education and integrating the high school, they closed the high schools down. They closed them down so that your choice was not to go to an integrated school or non-integrated school, but to go to school or not at all. So parents who could afford it sent their child to private schools. And so a lot of my classmates at St. Emma Military Academy were from the Virginia area because that's where the school was located. And they were there because their parents could afford them education at a private school. The society around that school where I was educated was still very highly segregated. The institutions were segregated. When we got on the buses, you had to get to the back of the bus to go in a place, and that works with your mind. If you don't have a counter message that, look, you are as good as anyone. Your mind is as good or better than anyone else.
And I was one of the 16 students who helped integrate Durham High School. We had always been taught that white was better. Okay, we always heard those kinds of comments. And we still hear those kinds of comments today. I think that there were advantages in being in an integrated school, but there were definitely disadvantages. One of the disadvantages was that the caring and the passion and even the understanding and the valuing of Black students differed from that of a segregated school. Facilities were outstanding. The resources were plentiful. And those were the advantages. Senior year, we had over 500 students who graduated, and I was among those few who happened to be in a minority situation and experience the ills and the successes of integration.
I mean, I heard about it when they announced it in 1954 with the Brown versus Ferguson case. But when they said all deliberate speed in 54, and I hadn't quite gotten to high school, I got into high school, they still hadn't done anything. And so I figured that there were some people on the Supreme Court who meant well, but there were people in the executive and the legislature who had to arrange for implementation who had decided that they were not going to do anything under all deliberate speed.
School integration began with freedom of choice in 1966 when I started 7th grade. 2 black students attended the formerly all-white high school, one in the 8th grade and one in the 11th grade. The number of black students gradually increased up through my 11th grade, which was 25% black. White parents, including my own, were most concerned about the quality of education declining. I had just my senior year remaining, so they left me in public school while my 3 younger siblings moved to a newly formed all-white private school.
Minority students, whether black or Hispanic or whatever, do better in schools that are uniquely equipped to serve their needs. In other words, the graduation rate at predominantly African American schools is higher for African Americans than their graduation rate at integrated colleges. If we say that the goal of Brown versus Board of Education was to ensure equal opportunities for black and whites in all states, in all cities at all times, then it did not accomplish its goal. But if you say that the goal of Brown versus the Board of Education was to dismantle unequal educational systems, then I think you would have to say it did accomplish its goals.
I think the black students, in terms of my integrated experiences, the black students tended to hover and be close because we were such a small group, and we felt protective of each other in many situations. Of course, black students wanted to eat together. And I can remember many times the teachers would say, why don't you children go to another table? We were always expected to do the integrating years. And even today, when I went back for my 50th anniversary from high school, and of course, all of the black students who were there, of course, we hovered and we were so glad to see each other because all of us are in different places. And we had someone who actually came, why don't you all come and mingle with the rest of us? And that same feeling came back. Why is it that we are the ones who have to venture out? Why not venture over to our table?
Willingham was predominantly white. Lanier was predominantly white. And Mount DeSales was a Catholic school, but it was predominantly white too. And then you have Ballahuston and Peter G. Applin. And we just didn't play integrated sports with those other schools. They were just the makeup. I think between Lanier and Willingham and Ballahuston and Applin, we were the same size schools, but we just didn't play each other. You knew there were disparities, but I don't even recall at Ballahuston getting into discussions about integration and segregation, because it was a way of life then. And where we lived was in an all black neighborhood. We had some white friends, nowhere near as many as I do now. Spent a lot of time in the military. But our dad, he was a cement mason, and most of his clients were white, and he was well respected there. And I mean, he worked hard, made a lot of money, doing pouring concrete and all of that. And I don't recall him even mentioning that people were treating him differently.
And so I went to all white schools through the seventh grade. Then the federal court stepped in and said, you got to go faster. So in the eighth grade, the whole school system was integrated in a token way. And I don't remember any major incidents until the 11th grade when a group of white students staged a walkout for a few days.
I didn't worry about going to a white school or an integrated school. And in fact, it benefited me from being in an all-black school because my relatives, my teachers, my principals, and my mentors all told me that when you get out there, don't be fooled. You got to do things twice as better than your white counterpart in order for them to respect you or give you what you deserve. So you cannot go out there slacking. They're going to see you as black first and not as a high school graduate or college graduate or what. You're black first.
And they were very cordial towards us. I don't remember anybody calling us names or nothing like that when I was there. But you knew that there were white places to go and black places to go. And our parents, you know, they just had us going to places they knew that we were safe. You know, you can make laws, you can do all that stuff, but when you try to execute them, it becomes very difficult. You know, people talk all day about, yeah, we'll help you with this, we'll help you with that. Everybody should be equal, but everybody is not equal, and it's unfortunate that we're not.
The other people who were in poverty, like myself, because I lived in government project housing. But I saw the people across the street who had cars and who was doing well. I saw the people who were teachers or nurses who were doing well. So I could see the whole black community and still ride the bus from my house to downtown and didn't have to worry about going out in the suburbs or wondering where they were. I saw the entire black community, and I aspired to emulate those who had done well. The value for today's youth in being in integrated school is that the black students who come from middle-class families and the black students who have great mentors in community or in the church, etc., now know what the best that's being offered in the school system, and they know what to pursue. To give you an example, my daughter came up in an integrated school, and she went to school, and she did well because we helped her with the homework, we directed her, and gave her wise advice. She scored something like 96% on the end of the year test with her class. And when she went to the next grade level, they put people at the next grade level who had scored 90 or higher in the honors class. And they put my daughter in a regular class. And I went out there and told her, we're not going to have this. I know what the criteria is. I know what the selection process is. And if you're going to put those in there with 90 and 92 in an honors class, you're going to put my daughter in there with her 96. And they said, well, we've already started school now. We'll do it next year. I said, she made the score last year, and you're going to do it now.
My mission and my legacy has always been to educate all students, black, white, whoever. But of course, being an African American, of course, dear to my heart would be my own children. And my great grandfather, Thompson side of the family, started a teacher institute. It's called the Thompson Institute in Robeson County. And it was started to educate teachers shortly after slavery. We're very proud of the Thompson Institute, and we've been given a historical marker. So there's a rich history there. And this picture was taken in Boston, and it was taken during the 1800s. And we see one black student in the midst of this group of students. And if you take a close look, you look at his facial expression. And this is before Brown. And this was before any of the legislation that was intended to make us better in other people's view. And so I would consider him a hero in this picture.